Have you ever been in one of those arguments online where it feels like you're not just disagreeing, but you're actually living on a completely different planet than the other person? You've got your facts, they've got their facts, and they just don't match. It's maddening, right? And it feels like something is fundamentally broken in the way we talk to each other. So we're going to get into it because what's really happening is a lot deeper and honestly a lot weirder than you might think. Now, we love to throw around the term echo chamber, right? But that word, it just doesn't cut it anymore. It's not nearly strong enough for what we're facing. The real issue is something called epistemic balkanization. And trust me, it's a much more active and frankly more destructive process. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about why the whole echo chamber idea is the wrong diagnosis. Then we'll get into the real problem, how our shared reality is literally fracturing apart. After that, we'll look at the engine that's driving this whole split. Then we'll cover the human cost of all this, which leads us to the big finish, why it feels like we're all just shouting across an empty void. All right, let's jump in. Section 1. Before we can fix a problem, we have to know what the problem actually is. And it turns out the diagnosis most of us have been using is just plain wrong. Think about it. An echo chamber is, well, it's pretty passive, isn't it? It just reflects your own voice back at you. But what's going on now feels way more aggressive than that. It's not just reinforcing what we believe, it feels like some invisible force is actively sorting us, separating us into totally different worlds. Which brings us right to Section 2. If echo chamber is the wrong call, then what's the right one? This is where we really get to the heart of how our shared reality is being torn apart. Okay, here's the term we need to know: epistemic balkanization. I know, it's a mouthful, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. This isn't just about hearing things you agree with. It's about the active fracturing of our reality. It creates these little reality tunnels or micro-universes where different groups of people literally cannot understand each other's facts. They're mutually unintelligible. And this quote, wow, it just hits the nail on the head. This is the core of it. We've moved past disagreeing on what the facts mean. We're now disagreeing on what the facts even are. We're starting from completely different sets of information, which makes any kind of meaningful debate totally impossible from the jump. So how does this even happen? What is the engine that's driving us apart like this? Well, the answer is a powerful algorithmic process that's running behind the scenes of our digital lives. It's called context collapse, and you've definitely seen this in action. Imagine you tell an inside joke to a small group of your closest friends. They get it, they know you. Now imagine a platform takes that joke, rips away all the context, who you are, who you were talking to, and blasts it out to millions of strangers who are primed to hate you. That right there is context collapse. Let's just walk through it. A person posts something for their little corner of the internet. An algorithm snatches it up, strips it for parts, removing all intent and nuance. Then it serves it up to a totally different, often hostile audience. And what's the result? Bang. Conflict. Outrage. Because the system is built for engagement, and nothing, absolutely nothing, generates engagement like a good old-fashioned fight. And here's a perfect, concrete example. A sarcastic comment. A joke made inside a niche community that has its own language, its own culture. Well, when that gets stripped of its context and shown to a completely different group, it's not a joke anymore. Suddenly, it's seen as a genuine threat, a hate crime. The original meaning is just gone. All that's left is the anger. And when this process of context collapse happens millions of times a day, over and over again, it leads to what we're calling the reality splinter. The algorithms learn what makes you tick, what makes you angry, what keeps you scrolling, and they start feeding you a version of the world that's been sliced and diced just for you, serving up fundamentally different facts about the very same event. Think about something as simple as a local city council vote. User A opens their phone, and their feed is packed with stories celebrating the fantastic new tax cuts that just passed. Awesome. But user B opens their phone, and all they see are posts about the beautiful new parks being funded by that same vote. Both of these things are technically true, but they are two completely separate realities of the same event. They're not even equipped to argue with each other. And that leads to the really big question here, doesn't it? If you and I are given completely different sets of facts about something, are we even debating the same thing anymore? Or are we just talking past each other about two totally different events that just happen to share a name? All right, Section 4. This is where it gets really serious. because this isn't just some abstract technological problem. This whole process has a deep and profoundly human cost. It's actually changing our relationship with the very idea of truth. This leads to something called tribal epistemologies. Now, epistemology is just a fancy word for how we know what we know. And in this new environment, how we know things has nothing to do with evidence or logic anymore. It's about belonging. Truth just becomes a uniform you wear to show which team you're on. So what does that actually feel like? Well, in this world, believing a fact isn't about whether it's proven. It's about showing you're a loyal member of the group. If you accept information from the other side, it's not just a disagreement, it's an act of betrayal. Your personal identity literally dictates what you are permitted to believe is true. And this creates a deeply sad and isolating situation called hermeneutical injustice. It's a heavy term for a truly gut-wrenching feeling. It's when you literally don't have the shared words or concepts to explain your experience to someone else. Why? Because they literally haven't seen the same data you have. They have no framework to even begin to understand what you're saying. It's that feeling of talking to a brick wall, but the wall doesn't even know it's a wall. And all of this brings us to our final section, the devastating results of this entire process. We're talking about the complete shattering of the public sphere. What we're left with are incommensurable realities. That means the realities that just can't be measured against one another. They're built on different facts, different languages, different feelings. And in a world like that, you can't have a debate. All that's left to do is what the source calls shouting across the void. Look, the absolute bedrock of a functioning democracy is shared reality. You have to have a common set of facts that we can all start with, even if we wildly disagree about what to do about them. That common ground, it's been algorithmically shattered. We're all just standing on our own little shards of glass, completely unable to see the whole picture. And so that has to leave us with one final and really unsettling question. If we can no longer share the same basic facts about the world, what do we really share anymore? What's left holding us together?